Don't have a lot of time for this. I have to get back to work. It's 8:30. I start work about 5:36. Okay, so let's talk about the Ulysses project, the origin of it. Here's the thesis. One of the great things about this season, Black Lives Matter, systemic racism, all this discussion, one of the positive sides of it, I think, is allowing us to do a fundamental reevaluation of structures and what are the implicit, underlying, unthinking things we do. What are our blind spots when it comes to judging people, putting people into categories, discriminating generally? And so what I'd like to offer through this series of daily vlogs or weekly vlogs, however this works, is sort of a pushback to what I think is one area that is still probably the last acceptable form of discrimination, which is ageism. I think discrimination based on age, and when I say age, I don't mean discrimination against older people. I mean discrimination against younger people, middle-aged people, old people. People being discriminated against or being judged or being, given opportunities or not given opportunities based on they're too young, they're too old. And all the different ideas about what that means. You're young, that means you're not thinking clearly or something. And if you're old, you don't innovate. Something like that. Very simple generalizations that obviously are not correct. So the purpose of this conversation with you, and to show you kind of like what I'm trying to do in my life is, now that I'm over the 50 mark, I'm 51, and I want to make the second half of my life the most creative, the most interesting, the most vibrant that I can. I don't want to think of the second half of life as a time of fading, a time of retirement from the world, either the professional world or the entire world. I don't think of that. I think of it as till the day you die, you're in the game. There's no retirement. The type of game you're playing changes. Maybe you play a professional game for the first 65 years and then you play a different game. A service game, a giving back to the community game, a family time game. But you're still in the game. And so my sort of foundational framework has always been, the way I sort of organize my days, weeks, months, years, is I have a framework that I look at the world through. This framework is, let me describe it to you, is play, train, recover. So every day I think of my life in three categories: play, train, recover. The play category. The play category is thinking of what I have to do in the world as through the eyes of an athlete. So in my instance, play is business play. So that's my career. That's what I do. My league, my field is business play. I also think of financial play, so that's the financial game, saving money, balancing budgets, all that is the financial game, financial play. And then there's personal play. Personal play is relationships and experiences with family, with friends, across every dimension. That's play. Now, to play those games effectively, you need to train and you need to recover, just like an athlete. So what kind of training am I talking about? I'm talking about obviously physical training. Getting exercise in, staying healthy so that you can play those games, personal game, business game, to the best of your ability. If you don't do the training, physical training, for instance, you're cheating the game. So there's physical play. Then there's intellectual play. That is training your mind, keeping your mind active. That can be within the concept of business, so learning more things. Every morning I read the Wall Street Journal, front to back. That's my tactical business intellectual training. I also read books on strategy, and I take courses where I learn, let's say right now, business architecture. That's so that I can play the game to my best of my ability, and there's no end. Tom Brady is still trying to improve his techniques, and there is no end to that. Physical, intellectual. And then in my instance, I have a third element called spiritual training. So I am a Christian, I believe in the Bible. And so that's a foundation of the entire framework. But that means spiritual training. Every morning I like to spend my time in the Bible, study, reflect, pray. That's the training aspect. Although, let me just mention, prayer, I sort of think of that more in the play perspective. That's relationships and experiences, this time relationship with God. Recovery. Recovery is critical. You cannot train and you cannot play well on the field in any game if you don't recover. Recover for me means refueling properly, so that's what I eat. That's when I eat, so intermittent fasting, low carb, this sort of thing. That's refueling. Then there is rehab, so that's additional sort of work I do just to keep myself going. So my back sometimes hurts, so I do sort of a little bit of a back rehab. I do some shoulder hanging to keep the shoulder strong. That was a big problem for me for a few years, which I fixed, but there's no end to there's no finish line, so I have to keep working on this. And the third part is rest. So two types of rest. There is sleeping rest, so that's making sure that you get a solid amount of sleep every night. In my instance, I like to go between 7 and 8 with an average of 8 solid every day. And that is quality sleep. So that is uninterrupted sleep. That is sleep where you're not, for example, let's say you had 4 glasses of wine the night before and went to sleep. That's not good quality sleep. So quality sleep to me is nothing in your system that's going to interrupt your sleep cycle. However that works for you, however that works for me, that's maybe different. And then there's the concept of what I call deep rest, which is I need time every day to decompress away from screens, away from my mind, always sort of operating. And so that's where I like to immerse myself in something different that I can sort of shut things down and focus on something completely different. So for example, if I'm reading a biography, a historical biography on, right now, Thomas Jefferson as an example, I get out of my own head. I sort of don't even exist. My brain shuts off and I'm just sort of watching someone else, just sort of watching them develop through their life, and I'm sort of, part of me is thinking about, how do I apply this to my own life? That always is kind of in the background, but literally it's just relaxed. I'm not sort of reading to learn things, like if I was reading a business book, that's training. This type of reading is more just relaxed reading that I can just focus on something else. But it doesn't have to be reading, it can be, if I watch a sporting event, that distracts me and sort of relaxes me and makes me not think about the game. So that's it. Play, train, recover. Something I've been doing for many years. I keep altering it, even on a week-to-week basis. I keep sort of changing it. I added in a breath practice, like a Wim Hof breath practice as well. That's part of, let's say, recovery for me. But anyways, the point of this is a challenge to you. If you're, let's say, over 50, it's a challenge to me to not give in to the wider context and the narrative of, hey, you're over 50 and now you have to start thinking about retirement, and you're not developing anymore. You're just sort of on this holding pattern with a slow fade. I reject it. I think I'm still developing, and I think I still will continue to develop and get better and up my game in all areas: professional, financial, personal. So the purpose of this specific series is to kind of give you a window into what I'm doing, kind of like how I'm approaching my day in the second half of my life, so that I can be really believe and live out the concept that in the second half of your life, you have an option. You can be old, or you can be bold. Be bold. And it's the backdrop to this, long story short, Ulysses Project. Why Ulysses Project? Based on the poem of Ulysses, it is not too late to seek a newer world, to strive to seek, to find, and not to yield. The idea being that we need to be out there. We need to be out there still having adventure at this point, right through. It doesn't have to be the professional adventure for you. It can be something personal. It can be service, giving back. But that is the genesis of this. Where it goes from here, I don't know. We'll see. I hope that sort of explains it so that you can join me in this journey.